Hey, I'm a pastor.
Me too.
Welcome to Pastors at 6 Feet. Today's logo art is done by Miles. Awesome job, Miles. Thank you so much for sharing your gift with us and, as an important fact, saying that we are, in fact, number one. Woohoo! This is a time where sharing our gifts together is remarkably important. As some of us are hurting and some of us are continuing to go okay, we need to be together. While I've really struggled when people say the church is closed in this time, it's really not. It is equipped and sent out for ministry in a whole new way. We as a church have expanded our financial assistance program to help our community. People like you and me in our very own midst who need help with rent and utilities. If you'd like to help us do that, make sure you drop some dollar bills on the website below. It's a way that we can continue to be the church, equipped and empowered in a whole new way. After all, Isaiah said, "Beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news."
That's weird, but here's some good news anyways.
In Cleburne this week, a local caterer celebrated Cinco de Mayo and Taco Tuesday by teaming up with people from across the whole community to deliver 3 huge trays of pulled pork street tacos topped with jalapeno to local fire departments. It's a good thing those tacos went to the fire department because they were smoking. In other local news, with many college graduations postponed or even canceled, the Friends of local Texas A&M graduates decided that they didn't want to miss out on this opportunity to celebrate their hard work and be together as community. So they held a special virtual graduation ceremony for 16 new graduates. And while the official time was not kept on this graduation ceremony, it is absolutely certain that it is the fastest Texas A&M graduation ceremony of all time. True friendship in a fast college graduation ceremony, those are incredible gifts. That is such good news that it may even cause this Baylor Bear to go, whoop. As we enter week 9 of this time of social distancing and quarantining, it is becoming clear to all of us that this time is shaping us and changing us. In an age when octogenarians are on Zoom and great-grandparents are live streaming worship and preachers are doing stuff like this to care for their people, a Texas teen has gone old school in a time of going new school. When he had an urgent message he needed to get to his mother, he went old school text message, placing it in the place where he knew he'd get her attention, proving that whether it's in quarantine or not, the best way to get your mom's attention is to get between her and the coffee. May the 4th was Monday, or as many call it, Star Wars Day. While many spent Star Wars Day celebrating the streaming release of The Rise of Skywalker on Disney+, pastors around the globe trotted out once again the same joke that they have made year after year after year. May the 4th be with you.
And also with you.
Good and loving church members dutifully and faithfully clicked "ha-ha" on their pastor's social media post, while for the first time during the season of quarantine and social distance, thanking God that they didn't actually have to look their pastor in the face while they made that joke again.
Ben,
What?
do you know who the champion of social distancing was?
No.
Darth Vader.
Why?
Because he always wore a mask, and he kept people 6 feet away with his lightsaber.
And finally, today is Mother's Day, a day where we celebrate and give thanks for the women who have birthed us, the women who have raised us, the women who have formed us and informed us. Today is the day where we celebrate and give thanks for the women who have walked through the journey of life with us, held our hands through the shadows, celebrated with us in the sun. The women who have been with us every step of the way, whether we call them mom or not. And while there is much that we could say to express our thanksgiving, I just want to say something really simple. We see you. We love you. We thank you. Oh, and we got you a present. We hope you like it.
Hey, babe. How do you get a country girl's attention?
Whistle at her.
A tractor.
Hey, Allie, why couldn't the bicycle stand up by itself?
Why?
Because it was too tired.
Hey, Alyssa. Did you hear about the yacht builder that had to work from home?
What?
The yacht builder that had to work from home.
No.
His sales went through the roof. His sales went through the roof. What do you call a person that cleans a vacuum cleaner?
I don't know. What?
A vacuum cleaner.
Mary Poppins.
Hey, April,
Yeah?
did you hear about the little kid who refused to take a nap?
No.
They're in jail now for resisting arrest.
Hey, Jody.
What?
The Secret Service can't say "get down" anymore to the president. They gotta yell, "Donald Duck!"
Karen.
Yeah?
Where do you take someone who's been injured in a peekaboo accident?
Where, Tom?
To the ICU.
You're the dumbest person I know.
Hey, Sarah. Why don't they let Wookiees do cooking? Because it's chewy.
Mari, what's ET short for? No, it's because he's got those short, stubby little legs.
What do you call a bear with no teeth?
What?
A gummy bear.
The real question is, how do you tell when a dad joke turns into a dad joke? When it becomes apparent.
Hey, Diane, why did the kid cross the playground? Oh, no, to get to the other slide. Or, what did the blanket say to the bed? Oh, don't worry, I've got you covered. Why did the girl eat her homework? Her teacher said it was a piece of cake.
Hey, Deanne. I got to thinking, maybe I should just stay home all the time and work from home.
Oh, Lord.
We're pastors. We're 6 feet apart. And today, we are talking about...
Hey, pastors.
What?
You have time for a joke?
Nuh-uh. It's our turn. Moms are moms. Moms are girls. Mom jokes for dads. Hi, moms. Hey, babe.
Yeah.
What did the mommy broom say to the baby broom?
I don't know.
It's time to go to sleep.
What did the baby corn say to the mama corn?
I don't know.
Where's popcorn?
Hey, Matt.
What?
Why is a computer so smart?
I don't know why.
Because it listens to its motherboard.
Moms are moms. Moms are girls. Mom jokes for dads. Hi, moms.
As we were saying, we're pastors. We're 6 feet apart. And today, we're going to talk about Sarah. You ready?
We're ready.
We got 7 minutes on the timer?
6 minutes and 59 seconds.
Okay,
but
close enough.
We'll take it.
We will. Ready, set, and go.
Okay, so when I think about Sarah, I think about learning about Sarah as a child.
Okay.
And never loving Sarah.
Huh, okay. You're going to have to unpack this a little bit.
Yeah. So I think it always had to do with like the way she treated Hagar. And like, let's be honest, I think there's a bit of exposure of my like purity culture Baptist upbringing that comes out of that. Because there's this like Sarah makes this decision, right, to give Hagar to her husband Abram.
Right.
And then what do you expect to happen when adults hold hands? Babies are going to be a product of that. Like, I think,
of course.
and it was like, so I was angry at Sarah, not for not waiting on God's timing, not for like the treatment of Hagar. I was upset with Sarah as a child because she expected Hagar to also be barren. Like,
okay, yeah. I want to have one little note to parents out there who are watching this on Mother's Day with your children and who are now having to unpack that babies come from handshaking.
That's right.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Blame Pastor Melissa. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a complicated story, right?
It's so complicated.
I mean, because Sarah is both someone who says, here is Hagar, but also when Abram, not Abraham yet, but Abram and Sarah were going into Egypt, Abram was like, hey, you're good looking and they're going to kill me if we go, so pretend you're my sister.
Yes.
And then, you know, the Pharaoh kind of takes her into his harem.
Yep.
And then bad stuff befalls the Egyptian community and he goes, hey bro,
get out!
Get out and take your wife with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what's hilarious too is that, you know, this story, that story you're talking about, happens when Sarai is in her 60s.
Yeah.
And I love that story plays out twice in her life. The second time when she is Sarah, but this time they're in Gerar and she's in her 80s. So I love it that she is beautiful through her entire life, enough to woo kings to want to kill her husband if he doesn't pretend that she's her sister.
Right.
Which, you know, there's so much problematic stuff there. And there's problematic stuff as well in like the fact that Sarah would eventually kick Ishmael and Hagar out of home, right? And sends them into the wilderness, and she knows what should probably befall them in the wilderness. You know, there's lions and bears. Patrick and I have been reading through scripture together in this quarantine in a different way than we normally would. And we both had the moment of like, were there actual lions and bears, or is that just something that pops in? But there are lions and bears in this wilderness.
On the felt board, there were lions and bears.
And in the real wilderness, there were lions and bears and, let's be honest, lack of access to water.
Yeah.
And I want to always put a bow, right? Like on Sarah, the matriarch of our faith, right? Like I want to put a bow on this piece of her story, but there isn't one to be tied on her story. But where we can tie a bow is on God's story. Because God doesn't forget Hagar and Ishmael in the wilderness and provides a well. And there's a beautiful story there. But we're talking about Sarah.
Well, but even God doesn't forget Sarah, even in her. I mean, remember, Isaac's name is laughter, right?
Yes.
It means laughter in part because she laughed in the face of God when he said...
Literally in the face of God.
Yeah.
Like that takes some
guts. It does. But yeah, it's a story, and that's what I think I love about this journey through these huge meta-narratives that we find within our Genesis story, right? It is God's people wrestling with where God is and has been in the totality of their lived experience, right? In its beauty and in its messiness, right? There, you know, I think sometimes when we're tempted to tell the story of our family or the story of our life, especially on a day like this, on Mother's Day, right? We tell the very big, beautiful, happy, clappy version of it.
It's so easy to do
We tell the funeral version, right? Nobody at a funeral hops up and said, that guy was a really sorry sucker.
Right.
You don't. You find...
Or she was a really sorry sucker.
Well, that too. They find the nuggets of beauty, and I think there's something powerful about that, because sometimes we can too quickly define people negatively, too. The God image lives in all of us, right? But the beauty of this Old Testament narrative is that it is the story of God and God's people.
Yeah.
Period.
Like, not perfect people, not, you know, I think sometimes we substitute the word chosen for perfect, but that's not what we see in Sarah's story. And like, I think you bring up a good point of like, we can flip this and we can also say that there were some really beautiful things about Sarah's life too. Sarah she followed her husband out of her place of home willingly. Like, she didn't kick and scream. Like, she went excitedly to chase after the same promises that God only began giving to Abram, not to Sarah. And she was faithful yes, there's the whole breakdown in the moment with Hagar, but that's 30 years into the story. That is 30 years of longing for the stars to be our descendants. Right? And it's 10 years after God meets with Abram in the wilderness and says Sarah's name specifically, and says Sarah will give birth to a son, and from her will many peoples, many nations, and many kings come, right? And she's still, so she is a patient woman. I don't think I could wait 10 years, let alone 30 years on what God keeps promising.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's the thing that I think many of us feel this in our lives. We may not be waiting 30 years to have a child, but we feel this discomfort between what we feel God may be calling us to.
Yes.
Right? In Methodist pastor world, we call it the ordination process. But we feel this tension and this distance between where we think God might dream that we're going to be and where we actually are.
Yeah.
And often that can lead to frustration and trying to find shortcuts, and then getting mad that the shortcuts didn't work out the way we thought they were supposed to.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And that's the beauty of this story, is we see that even like the first real like patriarch and matriarch of our faith, they had to wait just like we have to sit and wait and long for God and wait on God's timing, and we have to sit and we have to trust that God's going to continue to show up in the midst of that promise, in the midst of that process. And the question is, will we be faithful? Will we wait on God?
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on tonight's episode of Pastors at 6 Feet. And remember, as always, keep the words of John Wesley at top of your mind. Do good, do no harm, and stay in love with God. Oh, and keep staying 6 feet apart.
And now, as we get ready to get out of here with our song Good Light by Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors, that reminds us that there's a little bit of good news in each and every one of us. Tonight, let's go to the organ. Ready?